All right, the time is now 7 p.m. and this is the Town of Plainfield Board of Selectmen meeting on September 14th at 7 p.m. via Zoom. I would ask that we call the meeting to order and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. If I can find where I put it. Hold on one second. Here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I would ask to take roll call at this time. Kevin Cunningham.
Art Gagnon.
Becky Hewitt.
Okay. Go to item C, approve the 8/24/2020 meeting minutes. You had a chance to read through.
Yeah, I'd like to take a chance to say that Mary Ann did a nice job on the policy, the open space policy. I read it over. It looks really good, Mary Ann. I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes for August 24th.
I will second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And there's an opportunity right now for public comment. Anybody that's on right now would like to make public comment? Hearing none, we go into old business. This is going to be an ongoing review because there's a lot of items out there for the section 1, which is discuss town charter of section 5.3D, which is reviewing the town ordinances. And Marianne has done a great job of putting together a list, and I'll share that with you, Art, because this again is going to be an ongoing for a couple of meetings. We're going over all of the ordinances that were repealed previously. Along with that, there's some question on a few of them we want to look through. And I have asked members of the town hall employees for their input on a couple of, if they're looking to do some things that make changes. I can give you an example of one of them. On one of them that was out there, there's a question or concern that we might want to consider having the option of quarterly payments for taxes. So it gives someone an opportunity to pay quarterly versus, the biannual payment, but we have to still make that option available so they can pay it, twice a year instead. I still wanted to ask that employee, and I did, if they could come up with a list of how they like to have it phrased and what the impact would be. What are the pros, what are the cons of having that type of an ordinance? So, I'm trying to get some input from people who see things on a regular basis and how it impacts the town. What could be the benefit of having certain ordinances or restructuring of certain ordinances. So that's where we are right now. I know, Art, you've been scouring over all of these, looking at them, and I'm sure you've taken a lot of notes as you're going along as to what's been happening. So it's a lot of reading for anybody that's really interested in reading through the ordinances. I think it's a worthwhile at least read through. The intention here is that when we're all done, we would try to propose some modifications or additions or even some that are repealed, that could be repealed, and what the impact would be, and then bring it to the selectmen to go to a town meeting. Or even adding some that might be, something that helps the town. So those are the ways that we can actually make some change through ordinances to do things better for the town. So it's a process, and there's so much out there that it's a long process. So do you have any comments on this so far as you've been reading through? I'm sure you have a few, but anything so far that you want to share, Art?
Nothing I want to share. I'm making my notes. I'll get through it first.
All right.
Typos,
Yeah, and I'll share with you the memo from Marianne about some of the things that she's heard with there's a couple there that we can actually fix in one fell swoop. A few typos.
Yeah.
We can do that, and we can basically list out.
There's a few typos.
Yeah, so we can list out all the typos and have it as a one vote to fix all the ones listed. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one way of doing it, and we move forward with the other ones. So
I believe that's something the Board of Selectmen can do, the typos,
Well, it still has to go, anything for changes for ordinances has to go through the town meeting.
anything
Have
else.
to have- Yeah. So we can give them a list of, here's the packet that shows you all the typos. They can vote on that one item alone, just to fix the typos.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the eventual goal after that is to have every single ordinance be placed on the town website. So you don't have to worry about, well, can I go into the town clerk's office and ask for a copy when they're really getting short on copies that were bound. But everything will now be available at the end of all of this online, all in one shot. All right, hearing no other discussion, we can go into item F, which is new business. You have in your packet a list of all of the consideration for acting on tax refunds as requested by the tax collector, totaling $883.26. I'll read through each one. As long as they're all set, we can take action. Toyota Trust lease for $432.29. Rockwell A. Wagner for $11.68. Dana R. Corson for $20.54. Adeline R. Mandeville for $5.72. John A. Kratz for $10.14. Donald A. Cavella Jr. for $9.06. David N. Perkins for $255.91. Dennis J. Hoffman for $50.03. Robert A. Aubin Jr. for $10.91. Barbara J. Little for $26.41. Claire R. Burdick for $50.57. Again, if that's your pleasure to go forward with that, the grand total that I had was $883.26.
Yep, I'll make a motion that we approve the tax refunds for $883.26.
Motion's been made. I will second that motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. You're all set with that, Art?
Yep, aye. I said it.
Sorry.
They didn't hear me. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
it's a little echo here.
It may
All right.
yep.
All right, so item 2. This one may take a little more discussion, and we may even want to move this to another additional meeting. But you have in front of you on item 2, which is a discuss and act on Town of Plainfield COVID employee policy. Now, this is a Town of Plainfield was curious as to how other towns and municipalities have worked with the COVID-19 policy. What you have in front of you is accumulation of a few other towns and how they do it. It's very difficult this time. You're trying to be as safe as possible for your employees, but you're trying to be safe also for the residents and be able to do something that kind of works with a plan. There are many, many plans around the state of Connecticut of how you're going to be able to service the residents, still be able to have staffing in here, and still be able to have a way in which they understand what happens. One of the biggest things we've seen so far over a period of time is that employees have serviceable time which they have for vacations. They can go on their vacations, but again, now we're looking at another layer of this, which is the state of Connecticut. State of Connecticut has executive orders, and they're talking about how you would be able to go to another state in the U.S. And be able to be safe and travel into your vacation and be able to come back safely. But the state of Connecticut also has like 33 different states that are what they consider hotspots. So as an example, if someone wanted to go right now to go to Florida, they have to be aware that Florida is one of those hotspots. If they were to go, according to the state executive orders, I think it's 7 III, it talks about how there is a concern that you could be coming back into a quarantine situation. So it is very difficult to do and be able to make sure that the staff understands what the process would be. And the other thing that, again, if you go to the state, take a look at the materials that are there, it says if you go out of the state into one of the hotspots and come back, you are actually running through a process that the state has set up guidelines for, which is if you are an essential personnel, it brings a different flavor to it. So if you're traveling and you are an essential personnel and you're going there for particular reasons, That's understood, and so you have a 72-hour window to come back, get your test, then come back into work. The other problems that we are finding that under those executive orders, if you are a person who has to take care of someone for health reasons, and you have to go out of state for that reason, or when you come back into state, you are taking care of someone for health reasons. You have the you fall within a certain category, which allows you to come back to work at a quicker pace. These are things or guidelines that are set up by the state of Connecticut, and we're just trying to work our way to follow them. So, I mean, the basics here are kind of simple. If you don't feel well, you don't come into the town hall to go to work. You also, as a resident, wouldn't come into the town hall if you're not feeling well. It's the same thing. We still do and offer a lot of business by way of phone, by way of online. We could still meet you out in the parking lot if that's the case. So we're trying to work on what works best for employees. I don't feel it's really, my personal opinion, Art, is I don't feel it's fair to read through this and actually take a vote on it tonight. There are so many questions that come out of this that I think it would only be fair for us to read through to make sure that we understand what they are. And then if you have questions, to come back to the table at the next Selectmen's meeting on the 28th to, compile your list of questions so we can actually make, policy appropriate.
That's fine with me. I'm writing questions down as we speak.
Yeah.
So you just
there's a lot.
need a motion.
Yep. Entertain a motion to table item 2 to discuss and act on the town of Plainfield COVID-19 employee policy.
So moved.
A motion's been made to table, and I will second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I know we have a lot of homework, but it's that's the nature of the job sometimes. So the next item is something I'd like to be able to work on, which is item 3, discuss town of Plainfield reapplying for heart safe designation. In your packet, you'll note that there is a State of Connecticut Department of Public Health has an opportunity for the heart safe designation application. Now this really talks about your town's awareness for public health and safety as it relates to the being heart safe, doing CPR training, public access to the defib machines, talking about offering CPR and AED trained equipment for certain individuals, and doing early advanced care. The application itself isn't that hard. It's talking about what we'd like to do as a community or a workplace or a campus, and putting an application forward and then submitting it to the state, and working with how many AED sites we have in town based on the population, where they're located, what we as a town would offer for CPR certifications. We'd have to have a number of citizens who are trained in CPR certified or AED minimals, so they at least have an initial designation. That helps with the community. Same thing with on the job site, for the town, for the workplace. So I think it's a positive thing for the town to be recognized as heart safe. We're trying to be helpful to the community to let them know that we're very concerned about what goes on with their lives, and this is one of those aspects. So I wanted to share that with you and see if you would be interested in. We don't have to take any action on it, but I would be letting you know that I would be working to, I've already been working with the Board of Education as one of the nurses on the board who would like to help out with this. And we already have designated through our emergency management director who would help us to identify where those AED sites are. We would offer classes for CPR certification, CPR and first aid certification, and as well as looking for AED certification. So they're very, by the way, for anybody who hasn't seen an AED actual machine nowadays, everything is all spoken by words. So as soon as you open the door to it, it tells you what to do step by step by step. So that's the great thing about those machines. But we still need to be working as a community to see if we can get more awareness for how to be healthy. So I will be working on that one over the next couple of weeks and reaching out to anybody that wants to see what they have to do to get CPR certified. We can still have small classes and still be safe about doing it. So, any comments on that, Art?
Yep. My first question is, how long has it been since we've been Hard safety.
The last time the real certification came through was 2016. You might have seen those signs up on the side of the road somewhere that show you the actual heart safe community. So that was the last time I saw there was an application that was put in.
Okay. So
It might have
are we doing a renewal application?
That's what I got to check with the, now it's no longer Renee Coleman Mitchell, but I will talk to the State Department of Health about making sure which application they would accept from us.
Okay.
Seems though we've already been a heart safe designated town before.
Right.
I don't see as a problem with reapplying because they know who we are. And, whichever way they want to go with it, though, is fine with me.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, if we had any numbers on the AED or any CPR certified people.
I would actually ask the community if they wouldn't mind being on a list. Because all you have to do is say who you are, when your certification was, when it came up, and then put you on a list. So I'm sure that we're as a town of between 15,001 and 30,000 could have 95 people who would sign up between the employees, staffing, and residents who wanted to volunteer and say that they are CPR certified.
Well, if it's a renewal, it's only 50.
Right.
So that one makes a difference. But I'm just wondering if we have any of this information from the last time.
I can look.
16, yeah. Okay. I think that's the only question I have on that.
Okay.
On the other page. Oh, do these exist? Oh,
So we can do, by the way, we can also
promotions,
do online
education.
classes. Sorry?
Health education promotions, AEDs. We don't know anything, right?
Right. Well, there's, as far as controlled high cholesterol, controlled high blood pressure, I can check with them to see if we can, they would allow the online classes.
Yeah.
With the way it is right now, we can do some online classes. They can get their own certification, print them off. We can have a copy of them. And so there's more people that can be aware of what's going on. Those courses, some of those courses are offered for free through different entities we have, like Karma has them free.
Okay.
Okay.
Done.
All right. If we can go on to number 4. Discuss and act on a grant application for neglected cemetery account. It's a grant program authorizing the first selectman to apply for the neglected cemetery grant. This has grown. I want you to know that there's a lot of, and Art, if you picked up your packet, did you pick it up today?
No.
There's a letter waiting for you. The letter is actually, so this is, like I said, this grant is one piece of it. There is a Deborah Avery Putnam chapter of the National Society of Daughters of American Revolution who are inviting the selectmen to a dedication of the Revolutionary War service for Jonathan Hammett. That's going to be on Sunday, the 20th at 1 p.m. at the Hammett Cemetery in Green Hollow Road. For those people who are keeping track, there's a designated Town of Plainfield POCD. If you take a look inside the POCD, I'm not sure what page it is, but I can get that for you. There's actually a list. It doesn't translate well to me showing it in front of the screen, but I can show you that this is a list of all of the cemeteries in the town of Plainfield. There's 30 of them. And there's a gentleman who's been calling me and wants to know if he can create his own nonprofit, which is fine, for cemetery cleanup. So there is a list of the old Plainfield cemeteries. Like I said, there's about 30 of them. What this gentleman wants to do is to be able to help to do a nonprofit to do cleanup. So I wanted to share with you. Let me just get over here to my Zoom share screen. Where is it? Here we go. And share that. I'll show this really quickly, but it's basically this gentleman is taking pictures from around town. Make sure I can go forward here. If I can't, there we go. He's showing you the condition of different cemeteries, the grave sites. That's actually not too bad compared to a couple of other ones, but it does need cleaning. Obviously, you see the moss growing on those. You can't even tell what that is. You can see the condition of the grave sites. Markers have been broken. They're falling in and caving in. not the greatest picture sideways, but it does give an idea of what he's looking at. He took pictures of these because he wanted to at least explain to the public what it is he's looking to do. The conditions of these graves can be improved tremendously. There is I can stop the share on that one, but there's a way that we can actually go through, not just with a grant, but also he wants to create a nonprofit and gather people like they did in Killingly to see if there might be some volunteerism to help clean up some of the grave sites. So I think it's a great thing where you want to be able to be part of the community and make your community look a little better. I have no problem with that whatsoever. So he's talking about how little it costs to actually get the materials to help to clean it up. And it's just basically some elbow grease to clean up some of those sites. So that's one of the things. So we are invited to a ceremony on the 20th. He's looking at this young man, his name is Jason Bounds. He's looking to help to work to create a nonprofit and a support group to help clean up other cemeteries. But in front of you tonight, that's why I said it's all related, is a packet that talks about the neglected cemetery account. It's a grant program. There's not a lot of money available with it. It's about $2,000. I wanted to bring out the highlights to you to show you what the other things are about it. You'll see in the neglected cemetery account program on that first page, about a little more than halfway down after the allowable expenditures, there's something there called municipal labor utilized to perform only specific work listed above will be considered an allowable expenditure only after labor is performed outside the course of the employee's regular work schedule. So yeah, employees could work it, but the issue here is that it has to be in overtime as part of the grant, because that's how they would actually pay it. It can't be part of their regular hours. They wanted to volunteer their time, that's fantastic, but they can't be using money as part of coming from the municipality to pay for that. So it's only fair. So there's eligibility, as you can see. I'm looking to see if we can apply for the grant. I've also had the highway supervisor go out and check some of the conditions of some of the cemeteries. There is also another issue that you would need to know, and that is some of the cemeteries are on private property. So we would also have to get permission from those particular individuals if we wanted to help clean those up as well. That gentleman knows that already, so he's aware of what we'd have to do. So if we were to consider going forward with this, we have a cemetery RFA checklist we have to follow. Inclusive of that checklist is having included a certified copy, embossed, sealed, darkened, if applicable, of the minutes of this meeting, and it identifies the CEO, myself, with my title, Kevin Cunningham, for a selectman, and that I'm authorized to apply for and accept on behalf of the town a grant from the neglected cemetery account, and that I would be authorized to enter into an executive and all agreements, contracts, documents necessary to obtain said grant should the town be selected for the grant. And again, this is $2,000. So Art, what do you think about this first?
I think it's a good idea. Absolutely.
Okay.
I did read in here somewhere though. It's for certain cemeteries, right?
Yeah, there's not everyone can be listed, and we do have some that would not be under that guideline.
That's what I was wondering about with the private ones. I'm looking for
Yeah.
that.
Well, that's why I wanted to mention the nonprofit, because the nonprofit will be helping to do the offset ones that we weren't able to take care of.
Right. Okay.
Trying to do a well-rounded program to make it so that it works for as many as possible. Obviously, there's some we're just not going to be able to get into because they're really deep in the woods. They are very deep in the woods, but they're listed. We have them on our historical society has them on a list.
It's on the second in the general statute. Well, second paragraph. Just like the general statute, neglected cemetery. Second one is burial ground cemetery. Is not under control or management of currently functioning cemetery association. So I would think those private properties, as long as they're not have an association.
Well, that's a great point, because the 501, the nonprofit that this gentleman wants to do is he wants to be able to say, look, we have a an association that takes care of one cemetery. We have an association, a different association taking care of another cemetery. This particular one he wants to produce is a cemetery association that would be collectively taking care of the rest of them. And he would also have to get permission again from those landowners individually to be part of that association. So what they're offering to do is going to be something that isn't like it's a one-time thing. Like, you know how the Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts would occasionally go out and do events like this? Well, they're trying to get it so it happens on a regular basis for cleanup and repairs. And this group would be as an association and working on keeping an eye on each one of them. But for us, you're right. This is just for the ones that aren't currently in an association. But
Right, because then now you bring up another point.
Mhm.
If they agree to have them be the association, are they going to give up their rights to the cemetery as far as any care? Or I just don't want to get stuck with the state later, because if we go for this grant again or something,
Right.
you know, we always say, well, you know, you didn't follow the rules last time. That's all. So those,
But yeah.
I would look into those cemeteries anyway. That
Jason and I will probably sit down and talk about how that association would work as it compares to the one in Killingly. Killingly already has one that does that.
Yeah.
But we kind of mirror off of what they do and make sure that we're doing the right thing.
okay. Otherwise, you can answer all my questions, I think.
All right, so at this time, I would need to have a motion to that Kevin Cunningham, the Chief Executive Officer of the Town of Plainfield, is authorized to, I shouldn't say that, it should be the First Selectman. First Selectman Kevin Cunningham is authorized to apply for and accept on behalf of the town a grant for the neglected cemetery account, and that I am authorized to enter into and execute any and all agreements, contracts, documents necessary to obtain said grant, should the town be selected for a grant award.
I'll make that motion.
You've made the motion. I will second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, and I will start processing these papers tomorrow morning. And now, so we can get to item number 5, I believe. We're just having discussion. This discussion on Shepard Hill School sidewalk project. This is kind of a very big thing, because we're looking to access the safety for the town of Plainfield, and one of the villages that seems to be at this point kind of neglected is Warregan. Warregan has no sidewalk that helps to allow for both children or residents of any type to be able to walk along that street area in a safe format. Now, for those, we all know that there's another Dollar General coming up on the top of the hill there at the corner of Moosa Pond and 205. I shouldn't say we, I got to put the credit there. Mary Ann has been working on this. We're all working on trying to figure out where to get dollars from and how to do it right. So there's a 3-phase, in your packet, you'll see there's 3 phases for an opportunity to put sidewalks in Oregon. Each of those phases has a dollar value listed to it. And there's a year listed to each one of those. If we were to go forward for this, we would be using something for the Community Connectivity Grant Program. We would be looking to do phase 1, which is north of Putnam Road on Shepard Hill intersection and going along the south side of Shepard Hill. And that ends just to the north side of the southerly driveway. What we're talking about is it would cover both driveways and stop right at that entranceway coming in, where they usually have the buses coming in. So that's where that part of that is. That'll be phase 1. If you look under phase 1, you'll see construction costs and what the grants are available for, what the town portion is, engineering costs inclusive of that. So the town portion of it would end up being approximately $48,632. If and that's the anticipated bid of hopefully coming in on December 2021. The second phase of that talks about coming up out of Oregon, which is starting at South Chestnut coming up to the corner of 205, coming around in front of where the gas station is being rebuilt right now to match up and connect over to that initial phase one. There are crosswalks also in the plan as well, so they can get safely across. That would also include the ADA compliancy crosswalks, and also have across the street where you see by the way, there are maps in your groupings. Across the street where the new Dollar General is, putting a sidewalk area in the front corner around the front section. There will be crosswalk again going across Route 12 to help that process for safety. And there is a cost value to that, which you'll see listed at $529,000. Then the engineering costs. So to the town of Plainfield, we'd be paying $42,000 anticipated. That's what the total cost of the project is, $571,000.
Now that one's going to have a signal to go across to move stuff on, right?
We'd have to work with the state of Connecticut, making sure that there was connectivity for signals for crossing over. Phase 3 is the East Shepard Hill Road. East Shepard Hill Road is continuation from where we left off at the beginning up by Shepard Hill. It's all, by the way, that's all on the same side of the school. It would continue on down, all the way down to East Shepard Hill, and it would match down into Route 12. So that one is phase 3. It costs $756,000, of which a grant would be $600,000. Town portion $156,000 plus the engineering. Town portion to pay would be $198,000, and that's in year 3. It doesn't mean we can't start looking around for other grants to pay different portions of it. It just means if you take a look at the paperwork, the community connectivity grant program is $600,000. So it's a competitive grant. We'd be applying for something that we'd look to do to upgrade our section of Oregon. And I think a much safer way for someone not having to walk up. If you've ever walked in that area, you'll know it's not good walking up that hill. It's very dangerous. So, and then so the aspects of this would be, it does help for students who want to walk on that sidewalk to be able to utilize it. Right now, no one wants to, because you're out in the middle of the road, basically. There's no way to get across. And we're talking about all up in Shepard Hill on the housing area that up the top. So there's no way to get across, number one. And even if you did, there's no place to walk safely because it's all roadway. So in placing these sidewalks there, I think it would be a much safer way for students to utilize to get back and forth to school. We would have to also work with the Board of Education on their bus routes, because there is a criteria by which the busing also does or does not pick up a student based on how close they are to the school. Right now, they're asking them to pick everybody up because there's no way to walk across the street. So that's another thing. As far as the section of 205 coming up the hill and to be able to cross and walk over, there's now another way for those residents in that village to be able to utilize to get to shop for materials that they could buy at Dollar General. So those are the 3 phases and some costs. And this program would be, if available, would give us an opportunity up to $600,000 per year. Obviously, the second year, the only cost there is $529,000. We have to pay our own engineering. That's part of the program. So my concerns are, I'm sure that the Board of Finance concerns as well, is where are we getting the money? It's a great bang for your buck if you think about it, because you're bringing an opportunity for safety, and sidewalks in that area will help build up that area. But the first year is the toughest in my mind, only because in year 2 and year 3, this is something that we as a town could build into our 5-year capital plan. That's what the capital plan is about. You try to put things in there that you know you'd like to have and prioritize them. So that's how we would go about it. So that's
Kevin, I had a quick question.
Yes, Tom. I recognize Tom.
Yeah. Can you tell me again, on the first year of the project, how much would the town be paying?
Well, we're looking at the total town cost, which is $48,632.
Okay. Yeah, I'd gotten the others of like the 42,000 for next
Yep.
phase and 198,000.
Yep. So what we'd look to do is, and to very blunt, Tom, I'm already in the freeze right now. I don't want to expend a lot of money. I'd look for other places where we could make some savings, and if possible, be able to utilize as much of that savings into this 48,632. But let me give you the example, Tom, of what I'd really like to do. According to how it works out, towards the end of the year, and we say, oh, great, we got the grant, we got the money, might be available for us. Where we're going to get it from the town side. If I was to save like $25,000 and say, look, the town of Plainfield has saved through this freeze program $25,000 to apply towards the total cost of that 48,000, I would anticipate coming to the Board of Finance to ask for a town meeting to go forward for the remainder of those monies. And for that little amount of money to get sidewalks in there, I think is really, really good. And the rest of those years, if we do it correctly, would be incorporated in our budget through the year as part of the 5-year capital.
Yeah, you had said we can also explore if there's any other existing grant programs too to cover, especially when it falls under things such as safety. I mean, maybe there's some other ones that could possibly cover some of the costs.
Yes, I've already reached out to different people to ask at federal and state level about different opportunities for that type of grant opportunity. And so I'm already starting out. So we're not going to be behind the 8 ball when it comes up to saying, yes, we got it. We can already start saying that here are the different grants we can apply for and go for them. Even if we didn't, I'm still saying to you, Tom, that my anticipation would be getting some savings out of the town for our freeze that we're currently in, and then be able to come back with you for not the full amount, but something much lower than that.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, years 2 and 3, definitely, if we can foot the bill via other grant monies, that's also another great saving, especially year 3. Year 3 is the bigger boat. So this is something that it's, and I will share with you, Tom, with another copy of all of this if you'd like, so you can get a full understanding of it, and the Board of Finance knows. Which, while we're discussing it, and this is really just a discussion item for right now, I would like to bring up this perfect segue. Tom had reached out to me about having a joint Board of Ed, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance meeting to talk about where we are so far about school reopenings, how much money is coming back from CARES Act and FEMA, what's the impact from COVID-19. And it helps if we're all 3 boards are sitting down together collectively to talk about what the issues are, because sometimes it's tough. I would have to go back and look at a Board of Education meeting and say, I gotta look for their minutes and find out what they talked about and what the issues were. We don't mind it as public servants answering questions from the public is about what's going on, because we're trying to be as transparent as possible. Here's what we have facing us, and like we did tonight, we're talking about sidewalks, and we're talking about where we're going to get the money from for sidewalks, and what's the reason why you're doing something like that. It's in my mind, the number one thing has always been public safety. So let's look at ways that we can actually explain to public what's going on. And we're going to have a Zoom meeting for those who are on the call. Basically, the Zoom meeting is going to be the 23rd of September. We anticipate 7 p.m. for that. And I'm going to be trying to put out the agendas as soon as Tom sends me his. I'll ask for the Board of Education for theirs, and I'll put out mine. But I'm going to be putting this item on there so the public knows this is what we're facing for monies for in the future. We're not just talking about right now. We are, but it's not just right now. It's also talking about where do we go in the future for our town and different things that we can bring to the table.
Yeah, and that this is a good topic, I think, to bring up at that meeting, because one of the things we're going to be talking about is the savings, which you had already mentioned. As we like to look at each budget as far as if we have money left over, what could it go towards for certain projects? The only fear has been, and again, we'll hopefully get some clarification and see where we're at this meeting. The fear has been that with COVID and some of these unexpected financial expenses that are being incurred by the schools, that there may not be a heck of a lot of savings left, at least for this first time going around with the 2% savings, just because, again, a lot of things were unexpected. But it's also important to note too, and I know the schools would appreciate this, that we're not forgetting about there are other projects that we had, kind of in the queue, which for the time being, we might have to be holding off for. And same thing goes on the town side too. It's like, we can't just forget, that we had these projects in the works, but money's going to be tight as it is just for regular operating expenses, with covering the COVID costs, and then seeing what we have left over to go towards projects, which, I think this is great. I think it's a great way to improve that section of town, but it's certainly going to be very dependent of how are we looking at financially and what do we have left for savings.
Agreed. So I'm going to ask Mary Ann if you wouldn't mind, if I explained everything okay, if there's something I left out.
No, you've covered it completely, Kevin.
The only thing that we have to talk about to let the public know is that this particular grant is a community connectivity grant. We have to have the first phase of this application deadline is in by 4 p.m. on Friday, October 16th. So the question for Mary Ann would be, if we were to put the paperwork in and as a town talk collectively about going forward with this, we have a public meeting talking about what's, a public meeting on Zoom if possible at this point. But I think that the 23rd would be a great stepping off point to say this is the plan.
Yeah.
And I'd like to have input from people. So maybe even putting something up on a town website to say this is the intention. What are your thoughts? Pros and cons, because we want to hear if they don't think we can afford it. That's a fair assessment. But we want to make sure that we're going to go at least put the paperwork in for this by October 16th, and that's the first phase of that.
Yeah, and also on the town's Facebook page would be a good place as well. And the grant, it does just cover $600,000 is the max you can apply for. And it only covers construction, and the state is considering the engineering costs for preliminary and final design and whatnot, the town's matching share, even though there isn't technically a quote unquote matching share required.
So I had two comments.
Yep.
First was going up Shepard Hill. You didn't mention that on Charlotte, Laurie, and Marie. There's going to be a sidewalk on the corner with crosswalks across all three, if I'm correct.
Yep.
Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention that. And the other thing was, once we commit to this, it's committed 3 years?
Oh, no, we're doing it one phase at a time.
Okay.
We're only applying for the first phase this time around.
Okay. I was just concerned with the phase 3. That's all.
Mhm.
This is such a big amount.
Sean, you had a question or a comment?
I was curious about the yearly maintenance of the sidewalks. Who's going to handle snow plow and keeping it all clean and safe?
It's a great point. I think you and I talked briefly about it, and it's something that I would like to put into a future budget. There are machines, and I know, John, you're on right now, but there's some machines that we have access to, not new ones, but some used ones. We can actually look at getting some machines that would actually help to scrape off or sweep off in a roller brush style format to clean off the snow. So there's different, like Bobcats, I know would have some different machinery tools to them. Ventrac is another company that has them, and they have multiple tools that go with them. It would be something I'd be looking at for, again, not brand new, but something used, so we can keep track of these sidewalks. My bone of contention has been always with sidewalks. Sidewalks are great, and they do so much to help people move around. But technically, the town or city, municipality, they're the ones who put them in. They should be the ones cleaning them up. So, to a point, I mean, there's obviously certain areas of certain towns and cities where you have sidewalks in front of all the houses. There's an ordinance actually that says you're supposed to clean off that sidewalk, or in front of a business. The business is supposed to clean off the sidewalk. But you can't do all of it. I mean, that's a long pathway, and it's on the town side. If you think about it, going up Shepard Hill, I'd like to see about getting a used vehicle like that to do its maintenance. Same thing around here at the town hall area. We can utilize that machinery to do that.
Okay, I was curious, is it gonna fall into the school budget for that or the town side for that?
This will be the town side. It's a town function. It's a town sidewalk, so we'd be responsible.
But the school takes care of the one in front of the high school, don't they?
Yeah, we don't do anything with that at this point. I don't think it was ever discussed previously, but I can check with the Board of Ed on that one.
Yeah, I know there was a section that goes from the annex up past the football field, then it goes up the roadway to the school, because they hadn't done along Route 12 one time, and the Board of Ed had to basically make the custodial staff clear it because it hadn't been done.
You're talking about the one up the driveway?
No, the one up the driveway is usually always done. It's the one that runs right along Route 12.
Okay, I get you. Right in front of the annex?
Yeah, it was kind of like, whose job is it? That's why I just think that I agree. The town should be responsible for it, but we need to make sure it's tasked out properly and people understand whose job it is. That's all.
Yep, I agree. I think it's something we can talk about and then take some ownership in some of these areas. Anybody else? Art?
That's it.
Okay. Before we move on this, I think that the idea would be that we know we should be at least putting the application in. It's not going to hurt anything to put the application in, so I think it would be appropriate to do that. And then we can talk about this as a old business at the next meeting so we can see where we stand on that. Okay.
This is just discussion anyway. Right?
Yep, that was all it was for tonight, was just discussion. It really is appropriate to tell the public what's going on, let them know. And I prefaced a little bit of this with Tom before, but it's good to have the whole packet. And Tom, I will get you a whole packet and maybe a couple of copies of it so that the full board can see it.
Especially the maps, Tom. It really lays it out nice.
Yep. If Marianne, if you're able to get them any of this material on via email, scan them in.
We'll do that.
Okay, so that way it makes it easier to get it to the board members.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion for Shepard Hill Elementary School sidewalks? Since we have nothing else on the agenda for tonight's meeting, I would ask for a motion to adjourn,
So move.
and I will second. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye. Now adjourned at 7:47 PM. Thank you all for being on the meeting tonight.